Hi, I'm Stephen Capsuto, and for many years I've studied the history of LGBTQ images on American television. Today we're going to listen to part one of my 1991 interview with the groundbreaking lesbian activists Del Martin and Phyllis Lyon. In the mid-1950s, Phyllis and Del, who were a longtime couple, founded the Daughters of Bilitis, the first national lesbian organization in the U.S. The DOB started as a local group in San Francisco where they lived, but it soon had official or informal chapters in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Rhode Island, Oklahoma, and half a dozen other locations. And it held national conventions, which attracted people from all over the U.S. and beyond. Del and Phil also established The Ladder, America's first national magazine for lesbians, or for, as many members of the DOB preferred to call themselves in the 1950s and early 60s, gay gals. Phyllis was its first editor. When we spoke, I asked them about their early TV appearances, because in the early days of the homophile movement, in those oppressive 1950s and 60s, a time of queer invisibility, when we were officially considered criminals almost everywhere in the U.S., Phyllis Lyon and Del Martin were among the very few activists willing to talk to the media publicly about gay issues and about lesbian issues in particular. The interview took place on July 29, 1991 by telephone, which is to say old analog phones with really imperfect sound. So, turn on those captions. Did organizations like Daughters of Bilitis and Mattachine go to the broadcasters, or did the broadcasters approach the organizations?
The earliest I remember about television here in the city was after the Council on Religion and the Homosexual was started, and also the Society for Individual Rights, and that was in 1964. And then there was a program that the gay men were on.
KGO?
Yeah, what's his name?
Jim Dunbar.
Jim Dunbar show, which was early morning.
And this would have been around 64?
Probably 65. Anyhow, the men were interviewed, and then they decided they ought to have a lesbian on.
But they did that sort of as an afterthought?
Of course, they all do. Lesbians have never been anywhere except as an afterthought to gay men. I do remember that. I did go on, didn't I?
Yeah.
But they were terrified. I don't know, somehow they
to
thought
have a lesbian on.
it was much more frightening for them than to have a gay man on.
What kind of reactions were there in the community? Were people happy that there was increased visibility, or did they feel threatened that the group's anonymity was being challenged somehow?
Oh, I think everybody was excited every time something happened like that. But one of the arrangements we had, this is the first time that we went on in our own city. What arrangements we had, like with Los Angeles, if they had a show, then we would send somebody down there. If we had a local show or something, somebody there. In other words, as long as it was a local show, you could have somebody from outside do it.
So you had an exchange program with the Los Angeles groups?
Yeah.
So the earliest shows that you recall would have been the early 60s, the local shows?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, when was our convention? It was in L.A. It was 62.
62, right. And I know that Jay Bell had been interviewed by Paul Coates, is what I have.
No, really?
No, it wasn't she. It was a member from L.A.
Let's see, what I have here is summer 1962 Los Angeles interview with the president of Daughters of Bilitis during their national convention. So that could have been somebody else.
Well, I think it was the president of the LA chapter, rather than Jay, who was the national president.
So that would have been the chapter of the president of DOB-LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can't remember.
Did you find that when people would go on these shows that you would get more inquiries about the organizations? Was this good publicity generally?
Well, it kind of depended. I don't remember that, but I do remember that as a result of the Jim Dunbar show, that by the time I got back to Glide Foundation, which was where I worked, the switchboard operator was going crazy. And what they had was, and what happened was, that I got all of these phone calls all day long from women, heterosexual women, who wanted to know, who were pretty bored with their husbands and lovers and wives, and wanted to know how they could find a woman and have sex with her.
And they were phoning you at work about this.
Right. Well, that was fine. I mean, I was obviously an open lesbian.
Right.
And so on. And that was what I did at Glide anyhow, was be a lesbian. So, anyhow, and it was just kind of hilarious.
Both of you had appeared together later on the Donahue show, when around the time that Lesbian Woman came out.
Yeah, 1973.
That would have been 72, 73. Okay. Had you appeared on TV together before that?
No.
No. And one of the other things that I see mentioned here, it refers to Dell was supposed to appear on the Les Crane show in June of 64.
Yeah.
That was in New York. Right?
In New York, and that it had been all scheduled and was ready, and that at the last minute it didn't happen.
That's right. They canceled because it was too controversial.
And it was
instance of terror.
Yeah, and from what they told me about Crane, I was sort of relieved. I just said he was really very difficult to deal with, and I didn't have that much experience on TV.
Was that also around the time of one of the conventions?
Yeah, it was the time of the 1964 convention in New York.
What do you think the broadcasters thought would happen if they did put a lesbian on television? I mean, that they seemed so terrified of doing it.
I don't know. I think it's a male thing. We've not run across women who were so terrified of talking to us. Really.
Well, I think it's the idea, though, lesbians are going against, womanhood and what we're supposed to be, and that it seems to be much more threatening than men who give up their role. Although that's certainly threatening too.
Apparently, because I mean, there's still stations get threats and sponsor defections and all kinds of things happen when they put on a gay character, male or female.
Yeah, well, that's the result of the radical right, though. That's not necessarily the widespread feeling of Americans, I don't think, but it certainly
Actually, the radical right has been a great source of information. I've been looking through their newsletters, and they document every gay-themed broadcast.
God,
so I don't know, maybe I should send them a thank you note or something.
Give them credit in your book.
Oh, wouldn't they love What do you think, looking back, are the most influential broadcasts, or the things that stick in your mind, and why?
Well, if you were going to talk about
Louis Lomax,
but Lomax, definitely you need to talk about that. The other is Rejected. Have you heard about that one?
I've been able to find articles about it. I haven't been able to find a recording of it anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, it was so early on.
The Rejected had Bishop Pike and Rabbi Fine, and I thought it was in the early 60s.
61, out of KQED.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But at the time, that was something that was much talked about in the community, was that broadcast.
That was really the first.
As far as all of us knew, that was the first big sort of breakthrough.
It certainly seems to be the first positive national broadcast. I mean, there had been earlier things about men who molest little boys and things like that.
Well, yeah.
Are there any things that I haven't asked about that you would want to talk about?
Well, yeah, there is. I was on, it was Louis Lomax. Down in Los Angeles in the 60s. And the thing that was so fascinating about that was I had spent hours, it seemed like, with his producer on the phone, telling him about lesbians, and I had sent him all the material I could dredge out, copies of The Ladder and all kinds of goodness and all down there and so on. And I thought that, things were pretty square. I thought he understood what it was all about. And the first question that Lomax asked me was, now tell me, he said, how are lesbians different physically from other women? So he just never knew. We were on, you knew we were on the Donahue show. We got more response from that than I know of anything else.
We got hundreds of letters.
And phone calls.
Yeah.
And we got And we got them over a period of years, as a matter of fact. Well, they did run it twice, I guess.
Yeah.
And what types of things were people saying in the letters?
Well, there were very few who said they were praying for it. But actually, very few. And all the rest were, some women sent us their life stories. I remember one instance where this woman wrote to us and said that she was a maid in a motel or a hotel and somewhere, and she had gone into this room to make it up and turned on the TV, and there we were. So she said that she would finish the room, and then she'd turn off the TV and she'd race to the next room
and turn on the TV.
And then we got letters from women or phone calls from women. Say 2 or 3 years later, they had taken down the address information and so on, but hadn't had nerve enough to call until several years later.
But we got hundreds of letters, and there was different kinds. Like Phil said, some of their life stories. Some of them were trying to figure out how to meet others like themselves, and how to plug into the community and where they lived. And of course, we weren't all together. That helped them there. But some of them really went on. It really gave us biographies and sent photos. Well, at one point we thought about doing a book on letters.
It's on all those letters. It's a little hard at this late date to sort them out. We
Right.
had a lot of letters as a result of our book, Lesbian Woman. So, but we could at that time tell, when they came from Donahue as compared to Lesbian Woman and so on, that we got a lot of letters for both.
Out of curiosity, when is the new edition coming out?
Hopefully in October or early November.
Fantastic. As soon as you mentioned that you were putting out a new edition, I ran out and got the old edition and read it.
I mean, you were able to find one?
1972, published by Glide.
Oh, is it a hardcover?
The hardcover, no less.
Oh.
There are still copies circulating furtively on the East Coast.
In part 2, which I plan to post next week, Del and Phil and I talk about the portrayal of San Francisco's queer communities in 1980s TV documentaries, contrasting the smarmy sleaze fest that was CBS's 1980 hit piece Gay Power, Gay Politics, with a truly wonderful locally produced documentary from San Francisco called Lesbians, the Invisible Minority. And we'll talk about how it happened that in the 2000s, Phyllis and Del became the first legally married same-sex couple in San Francisco. Twice. If you want to explore more queer TV history, check out the hundreds of clips on my YouTube channel ranging from the 1940s to 2020s.